Three Idiots is one of the most viewed films I have shot. It influenced a lot of youngsters. It helped people to find the calling of their life. I think what the film did was to distinguish between schooling and education. After all, it is said that you should never allow schooling to interfere with your education. And one of the toughest scenes I have shot is from this film. So today I'm going to talk about that tough scene, the climax of Three Idiots. Tough because of the complexity inherent in that scene, the way it is written. If you look at Rajkumar Hirani films, the climax doesn't happen in one location. It happens in different locations with characters of different backdrops. This is no exception. Here the main scene is happening in the common room of the college hostel, but it is intercut with different parts of the college, like campus, flooded campus, hostel rooms, corridors, principal's office, and a hospital which is kilometers away from the hostel. I went through the scene multiple times, sat through different narrations with Raju. That's the way I work normally. I try to find out what the director has in his mind so that I can start my work from there. So it is a very intense climax. During the process of understanding the scene, the first thing which I noticed was the presence of rain. A heavy rain, incessant rain, pouring throughout the night. It's like a character in the film. I would call it a villain, a very powerful villain. It comes in the form of flood, keeping people stranded, keeping the characters stranded at different places, cornering them at different spots so that they can't reach their goals. It comes in the form of lightning and thunder, making a very scary ambience. To top it all, it comes in the form of a power cut, putting everything into darkness. This is exactly what a villain do in a film, right? So the main challenge of shooting this scene was making the rain felt in the scene. It's a powerful rain. So I wanted it to be visually powerful in the scene. And I believe that this would enhance the drama of the climax. In filmmaking, we don't shoot film in a chronological way. I mean, the way you see the film on a screen. It's not shot like that. We shoot as per locations. Whatever locations we are shooting, we finish all the scenes in that location together. So it will have scenes from the beginning, from the middle, from the end, like that. So for example, when I am shooting the campus sequence at IIM Bangalore, we had scenes from the beginning, the way the area where they enter into the campus and all that. And along with that, at some point, we are shooting the end portion, the climax portion also. So we had to bring in rain in almost every schedule we shot because the climax is scattered all over. So we have a crew handling rain. We have rain machines, we have water tankers, motors, and powerful things which will throw up water in the air and make rain. Even smaller setups like in hostel rooms, you can see the exterior through the window. So we would line up water pipes above the window with a lot of holes on it, so the water would be coming through the holes and it looked like rain happening outside. In places where I couldn't show rain, where there is no window or where there's no other exterior being seen in the frame, I would incorporate lightning into that place. Flash of lightning will happen suddenly. And in the post-production, sound post, they would add sound of thunder into that. So it looks like a very believable lightning happening. But the real challenge is yet to come. I'm coming to that. We started discussing about the final location where the climax is happening. That's the common room of the hostel. After thinking about the complexity of the scene, I suggested we put up a set in a studio to shoot this scene. Production didn't agree with me on that. Obviously, it's more expensive to put up a set. So they suggested that they'll give me an actual location, which is like a marriage hall or the ballroom of a hotel or something like that, and we will shoot in that space. And I was not agreeing to that. And I couldn't explain the kind of visuals I had in my mind to them. So it went into a lot of arguments and negotiations and discussions and all that. For 2 weeks, we continued that. And by the end of it, we came to a conclusion that we will put up a set. Now I'll tell you why I wanted a set. As per the script, there were different lighting scenarios happening in the story. For example, the first one, when the scene is starting, the power is on and most of the lights are on. The street lights are on within the room, the practicals within the room. Now it changes into lightning and darkness. Now darkness needs to be created on screen. No, the lights which I set up for the full light will not work for this. This is darkness. Within the darkness, you see flashes of lightning happening. So that will be an entirely different way of lighting up the scene. Now the third is a set of torches. People come, walk in, running in with torches in their hand. So they are moving lights. The light sources are moving all around and you see people in that source. After that, it comes to a single light. Above the pool table, there is one hanging light. That is the only light which is on. Around it's darkness. Then it comes to early morning. The light outside the window, the glass windows start becoming bright and it's a bluish early morning brightness happening outside. When Rancho steps out of the common room, he's stepping into a very pale blue kind of a light. And the last one is the most magical one where the sunrise is happening. The golden rays of the sun come in and illuminate the characters in the frame. Each segment is a different lighting setup and has an entirely different visual feel to it. And I strongly believe that these different visual fields will contribute a lot to the drama of the climax. I didn't want to compromise on that. So the facilities of a studio like a catwalk and the extra space around the set, I needed all that to create this drama. The constraints of a real location will limit me from doing the kind of imagery which I wanted to create. So I insisted on a set. We made 2 sets for the climax. One was an outdoor set, a big water tank, 200 feet by 100 feet water tank, where a part of the hostel exterior was put up and the road where the car is getting stuck. So that was a water tank. Actually, we took around 3 days to fill water into that water tank for us to start shooting. The second set was inside a studio. That was the set of the common room and the corridor right outside the common room. This was one set which was put up completely inside a covered studio space. The first challenge was running cables through the water. I wanted all the lights to be on because this is the first part of the story where before the power cut, so the lights are on. There are lights on the walls of the campus and there are street lights and things like that. So I wanted all of them to be on. So I had to run cables through the water. Now there is a danger in running cable through the water. If there is electricity leakage into the water, it could be harmful to the people standing in the water. So I wanted waterproof cables. Now this is an expensive proposition. The production was not willing to give me that. So finally I had to send a mail saying that a decision like that, not giving me waterproof cables, can result in risking the lives of the primary actors. Because they are there. Those are the people who are there in the water, the primary actors. So the line which said like risking the life of primary actors did the job, and I got waterproof cables and we connected all of them through the waterproof cables. And the first day of the shoot, I remember I was wearing a t-shirt with the print saying "Safety First." We organized a crew meeting, a safety briefing for the crew meeting, and I told everybody that nobody will step into the water unless and until the gaffer declares the set safe. Gaffer is the person who is in charge of the electricals on a studio floor. The second challenge was creating lightning. Now, if you analyze lightning is a daylight colored light which is high intensity, very powerful, and blinding light. Now, I didn't have a light which is that powerful, which has that high intensity to cover that entire area. So I decided to use 4 different lights. I erected platforms on one side, 25 feet platforms, and on top of that platforms, I put 4 different 4 kilowatt HMI lights. Now, HMI lights are the lights which has daylight colored light coming out of it. They're very powerful and they are daylight colored. So I decided to use HMI lights. Now, the first thinking is like you can do on off of the light so that the lightning will happen. Now, HMI lights, it doesn't work like that. If you switch off the HMI light, then it will take 2-3 minutes for the light to come back to power. So you can't switch it off. It will be constantly on. So I decided to use metal lures. They were available in the market. Metal lures to create that lightning field, which is like metal lures like this. When they are closed, and I can open it and close it. So like this. So I use those lures. But the problem with that was like when I'm putting up four different lights, I have four different people operating these lures. They are manually operated. So I have four different people operating these lures. Now, a command like lightning goes and they all operate. But syncing that operation was very difficult because each person, even a fraction of a second of operating, will make it look fake because the lightning has to fall all over the frame at the same time. It can't be like one area it came a little earlier and the another area it came a little late. Even a fraction of a second made it look fake. So we kept rehearsing how to get the sync correct. And finally, my team came up with an idea that let's reduce the command line, which is like 1, 2, 3, go. And they would go like that. So the error factor is minimized and we could get kind of a perfect sync after many rehearsals. And that shoot was, I think 2 or 3 nights we shot continuously and canned that sequence, which was very difficult shoot to do that because rain, lightning and night shooting. Finally, we started prepping for the final location, which is the set. Now when I look back, I think there was a lack of communication. I could never explain exactly what I wanted, or I could never explain exactly what I had in my mind, the grand visuals I had in my mind, to the rest of the crew. And this happens mostly because of a lack of planning in filmmaking. We don't discuss about the visual language of the film. We do not have look tests. We don't have a concrete thing to show to the crew that this is the way we are doing the film. This is an issue which I definitely want to talk about at a later stage as a different episode altogether. The relationship between DOP, director and the production, and how we prep for a film. In this case, one of the issue which kept coming back to me was that anyway we can't see rain in the frame, so why can't we shoot inside an actual location? This was a question which was asked to me. So to counter that argument, I said, I'll make the rain scene if you put up a set for me. So this was my argument. And finally, they granted that set and we started working on it, and the problems were to follow. So when the design of the common room came up, I sat with my production designer and I told him, like, I have an issue like this. I need to see rain in my frame. So he designed the set in such a way that the outer walls are glass windows, so you could see outside. That was a brilliant idea. I'm completely confident that I can show rain in the frame as I promised the production earlier. But what happened once the construction is over? Rajnish has made an amazingly beautiful set which has got real trees outside, real looking trees outside. There's a foliage outside, and then there is a corridor, which is a covered corridor. So you have outside the window, you have foliage and then a covered corridor. Now we have rain machine and people with rain pipes on top of the set and all that. The rain was happening, but I couldn't see rain through the windows. The reason was there is so much of area which is covered. It was almost impossible for me to see rain falling outside. Now that became an issue for me. So I sat with Rajnish again and said, like, what do we do now? I need to find something. If you remember, I mentioned earlier that I had lightning wherever I couldn't see raining. But here I couldn't repeat that idea anymore. I had to find something else. So we sat down and discussed a lot, and then I said, maybe if it is not the rain, it is okay, but I need to get the feel of the rain, the wetness, the feel of the wetness into my frame. So we came up with the idea that maybe water droplets on the glass, the water droplets on the glass would make the feel of wetness in the frame. That is a good idea. So we tried putting water droplets on the glass, and we realized that the droplets don't stay there. Within seconds, they roll down and they would disappear. And we can't keep putting water droplets on it because you need to spray from outside. It doesn't stay there. So finally, I borrowed a technique from my advertisement days, which was using petroleum jelly, Vaseline. Petroleum jelly was smeared on the glass, a very thin layer of petroleum jelly, and then you spray water onto it. Now the water sticks to the petroleum jelly and stays there. And it gives a kind of a wet feel to the set. Overall, it's a kind of, there is water happening outside, and on the wall you can see these droplets slowly moving down at some times and all that. So there is a feel of wetness which I managed to bring into the set. Now the huge task of lighting up 6 layers for different 6 visual fields. Normally in normal scenario, when we need to do a light change in a scene, we do it within the shoot time only. In between the 2 shots or 2 parts of the scene, we would change the lights and incorporate it. But here I couldn't do that because the number of changes were too much. I mean, 6 changes would take a long time, and they were not minor changes. They were complicated changes from full light to no light and to torch light and all that. They were complex changes which need to be done. So I had to find a way to handle this issue. So me and my team sat down, and we decided that let's have all the lights together, and we'll make different layers of lighting, and we'll connect them to different switch boxes. So switching from one layer to the other is like switching between 2 switch boxes. So you can switch it off and switch it on. So that will minimize. This is not just a switch on, switch off kind of a thing, because there will be a lot of other changes also need to be done. But it will minimize the time which would be required to change the layers. So we managed to get these things done. But the negative aspect of this is that we needed the number of lights more number of lights came in. That's more expenditure for the production. And at the same time, I had to get power supply for all these lights at the same time. So I had around 4 or 5 125 kilowatt generators standing outside my studio. Though not all of them were on, they had to be there connected to the lights, because whenever we want it, we can switch it on. So this idea worked out better, because otherwise the number of days of the shoot would have extended. That would have been more expensive for the production. So we managed to get this kind of a division, this kind of a planning on the floor, which helped us and the production at the same time. Now let's see the 6 layers. The number 1, as I said earlier, is the full lights, where all the lights are on. When they bring the girl into the room, they switch on the lights and all the lights come on. And the lights outside through the window you can see, and even when the car is stuck, you can see the lights on top of the wall. They are all lit. You could see, visibility wise, you could see most of the things which is happening. There is a darkness. You can make out that it's night, but the visibility is pretty good in that. Layer 2 is power cut and lightning. This is a complex area. Lightning hits and the power goes off and everything goes into darkness. For a couple of seconds, it's just darkness on the screen. I cannot leave that darkness on the screen throughout, because the audience still need to see the actors. They need to see the characters. They need to see what they are doing there. All that has to be done. So it's a very critical way of lighting up to make them see the drama happening. So I used silhouettes a lot in this, and I used lightning to at particular points, very important points, to see who is talking what and things like that. The visibility is minimal. The communication is just exactly what is needed for the storytelling, and it is darkness around. So audience have to imagine what is happening in the darkness. This heightens the drama. The third layer is torchlight. This is very interesting. The visibility is still minimal. There is darkness all around. There are fast moving sources of light within the frame. Sometimes the torch itself and what is being lit by the torch. Whenever a character says something or does something important, the torchlight patch passes through that to show it to the audience. The audience are to follow these light patches because there is no other visibility for them. Whatever is visible, they would look at it. So they would look at this person saying a dialogue, or they look at this character doing something which is important. So the communication is focused and intact. We used specially made torches for this. Actually, we got actual torch bodies which is available in the market. We changed the bulb into powerful bulbs. When you get powerful bulbs, it needs powerful batteries. So we made battery packs and tied those battery packs to the waist of the actors and put a cable through the sleeve to the battery packs so the torch will work on. And my team was standing just outside the frame most of the time with extra torches so that we don't miss an action or a person saying a dialogue, exact sync of the dialogue and the light moving will be correct and not depending on the actors completely. Our team had taken over this entire business. Layer number 4, pool table light. This is just one single light source which is right above where the action is happening. The rest of it is all in darkness. You will see people standing with torches behind and all that. But it is dark around and this one focused area where the delivery is happening. Layer number 5 is early morning. The rain has stopped. It's just trickling little drops here and there. But the light outside the windows, through the glass, you can see it is getting bright. It is getting darker and the outside is getting brighter. As Rancho steps out of the room, it's a pale blue light outside, which is the beginning of a dawn. Layer number 6, sunrise, the last layer. You can see the cold look slowly dissolving into a warm look. It's like ice melting. The golden rays of the sun creeps in slowly. It makes the overall ambience brighter and brighter. The contrast changes. You can see the water reflections on the wall and the hero looks happy and powerful, and the light change transforms the mood of the scene. The shooting inside the common room went on for 5 days. During this time, I had kept a team outside the common room to finalize my sunrise lighting. This was a complex affair because if you look at sunlight, sun is so many kilometers, thousands, millions of kilometers away from Earth. The light is parallel to each other. Light beams are parallel to each other. So the 5 pillars in the corridor would make 5 equidistant shadows on the wall. That is the nature of sunlight. So if I put one big light outside, which is closer to the pillars, as far as back I can go, like end of the studio probably, but it would still throw a kind of divergent shadows on the wall. It would not look real. So I had to put 5 lights equidistant, exact distance of the pillars I measured, and I put 5 lights like the sunlight coming from parallel beams. Now they interfere each other, that was the problem. So we had to block the interference of these 5 lights by putting a series of black cloths and cutters and filters and all that we used to create this 5 equidistant rays coming into that. And there were many other lights to create water reflections, change of contrast which is happening within the frame, etc. Now this was originally planned as a single shot. The whole thing, this entire walk and the conversation was planned as a single shot. So I had to plan everything together. And all these lights were connected to many dimmers and they were operating at the same time by different people. So we had to time it exactly and we managed to get this thing. So we shot it actually as a one shot. Later it was edited and we shot more shots and made it into another sequence. But when we were shooting it, we had to do it as a single shot. So all these operations which we did were done simultaneously within the dialogue time. We had to finish all these operations and the sunrise happened in the frame. And my team, amazing work by my team to create this effect. They completely believed in our idea and this was done perfectly. The film was released on 25th December 2009. It became a landmark film in Indian film history. The following year I was awarded with the Best Cinematography Award in IFA. Hope you enjoyed this story. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye on this space for more stories like this and consider subscribing. Thank you.